Welcome to Skin and Soul. I'm Gwenm a transformational body, sex, and soul coach, and I'm inviting you on a bold, unfiltered journey into the heart of our humanity through the lens of Eros. This is where we strip away the shame, dive into the unspoken, and embrace the wild, raw truth of our desires. Together, we'll crack open the taboo, uncover our deepest intimacies, and awaken the pulse of our sexual essence. Because real transformation, it's messy, it's thrilling, and it's oh so delicious. Buckle up, loves. Skin and Soul Beyond the Pale starts in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Welcome, and thank you for your patience. I'm Gwenm. I'm your host of Skin and Soul Beyond the Pale. And before we begin today, I just want to name that this conversation contains explicit discussion around sexual abuse, physical violence, family trauma, and betrayal. So please take care of yourselves. Make sure that you have support if you need it, or click off if you need to go. But this is a conversation that absolutely needs to be heard and put out there. So I'm sitting today, thank you for joining me. I've got Keeper Catran-Whitney with me today, who wrote an exquisitely horrifying memoir called Helpless, the emotional health challenges brothers experience after we learn our sisters have been sexually abused by our parents. That's a mouthful unto itself, and I just want to add that the book is then even so much more. I'd like it if you can just give some context around this book, for
Sure.
just to start off.
Sure.
And we'll delve right in.
Sure. First of all, Gwenm, let me say thank you for having me on your show. It is an absolute honor to be here. It's not easy for people to want to dive into this topic because of the sensitivity of it, just the nature of it. But as you said, let's just dive right on in. And I'm glad you gave people the message up front. This is going to be dense. It's going to be intense. The context is in 1971, my family, we were incredibly poor, incredibly poor. I lived in 21 different places by the time I graduated high school. I was homeless 3 times. We just could not afford anything. And in 1971, my mother and her brother and sister, they decided to start singing because they had magnificent voices. They were just absolutely spectacular. So they created a group called Whitney. But as fantastic as they were, Gwenm, they just couldn't get things going. So my brothers and sisters and I come from a family of 4 sisters, 3 brothers, 8 kids that are my siblings, but I have about another 22 or 23 half brothers and sisters because my father was very prolific and like the Temptations song, wherever he laid his hat, wherever he laid, that's where his home was, and he delivered. So some 26, 27 brothers and sisters. So as my mother and my aunt and uncle were singing throughout the house, obviously me and my brothers and sisters, we started picking up on it. We started singing, and lo and behold, one day my mother asked would you guys like to sing? We were like, oh, sure. At that time, the Jackson 5, they were really big. Who's Loving You, ABC. I Want You Back. I mean, it was everywhere, and we were loving it. So we started to start singing. And next thing you know, we're in nightclubs, after-hour nightclubs all over Los Angeles. That's where I primarily grew up. And somewhere in there, on a Saturday, we got a phone call. My mother walks over to the phone and tells us, to stop rehearsing because we were in the middle of rehearsing for that night show. And she says, hello? Who? And then she looks at us and says, shh, Michael Jackson's on the phone. Yeah, that Michael Jackson, the guy in the family we're trying to emulate and be like, he's on the phone. And she looks at my brother directly under me. I'm number 2 in the pecking order. The brother that she's talking about, he's number 3. And she says, Michael Jackson wants to talk to you. Silence in the room. And he picks up the telephone, all excited, obviously. Hello? Uh-huh. Yeah. A couple of minutes later, hangs up the phone and screams, Michael Jackson said he's heard of us. Says for us to keep going. We will get there someday. Now, what kid, poor or otherwise, could not build dreams on that? Jump cut to 1977. We're everywhere, Gwenm. TV shows, magazines. We reached the coveted Billboard's top 100 not once, not twice, but 3 times in 1977. I mean, we were on the way. Our life was 180 degrees from what it was. So we're auditioning, and then in 1977, we get a call from Motown. Motown wants us to be the replacement group for the Jackson Five, who had gone over to Epic Records 3 years earlier, and Motown was desperately trying to recover that loss. And we were their handpicked group. In fact, the woman who walked the Jackson Five into Motown, she brought us to Motown. So we're about a week away from signing the largest new artist contract any group was ever offered by Motown, larger than the Four Tops, the Jackson Five, the Temptations, the Supreme, anybody. Because where the Jackson Five had one made lead singer, all 8 of us did that. And we played instruments as well. So about a week out, we're getting ready to sign this contract. And my sister, my oldest sister, child number 3, screams upstairs, boys, come downstairs, family meeting. This is it. We're about to find out the day that we're going to sign this contract. Going from being homeless on the streets 3 times, from living in 21 different places, to not being able to eat, having to go into the street some days to find bottles to turn in for money to get a pound of ground beef and a bag of rice. Those days were over. They were about to end. So we all come running downstairs. Me and my brothers were the last ones to come in to the living room. My 3 youngest sisters, they're the 3 youngest of all of us. The 2 youngest are twins. And they're sitting on the couch, but they're sitting at the far end of the couch. I'm the last one to enter. Everyone else, my other brothers and sisters are there, but my mother and my stepfather, they have not entered. So I walk into the living room, and there's a round archway leading from the foyer to the living room. And my oldest sister is pacing. This is number 3 child. She's pacing back and forth. And she's angry. I mean, she is pissed. I'm like, okay, we've seen that before. So I heard her and mom arguing this morning about something. And I heard my sisters also chiming in. So I figured it was just them doing what they do, because her and my mother, they could be like cats and dogs. I mean, they didn't always mix like oil and water. So I figured it was just another one of those, but she was really, really angry. Gwenm, when I walked in, my 3 youngest sisters are sitting at the far end of the couch, and something odd was happening. They weren't making a sound. They were silent, which was so weird because they always talked. I mean, in my family, we were always bubbly, always energetic, always someone messing with someone, but they weren't saying a word. Huh. My 2 youngest brothers are at the other end, and they're looking around wondering what's going on with the girls. Okay, the girls are angry about something. So I go and I sit down on the couch between my sisters and my brothers. My oldest brother is standing behind my 3 younger sisters at the other end of the couch. And he's just looking, and we kind of lock eyes on each other. And this is supposed to be a happy occasion. We're about to find out when we're going to sign this contract and get out of this mess. My mother and my stepfather enter within minutes after me. Now, there was a brown recliner that sat in the middle of the living room, and my stepfather, who's 6'6", about 250 pounds, and wore a huge afro that would put his height up around 7 feet tall. I mean, he was a big man, huge. He went and sat in the recliner, And he then did something very odd. He put his hands on his face like this, bent over. What the hell's going on? My mother, who was very effervescent like her children, I mean, she's bubbly all the time. She walks in the living room and stands in front of a plate glass window that looks outside the house, out to the front yard. And then she does something odd. She spins around and she just looks. She's very stoic. This is not right. This is definitely not what I was expecting. I'm about 16, maybe 17.
Mhm.
Me and my brothers and sisters were all 8 years apart. My mother had all eight of us by the time she was 24. She just stares at her kids and she looks at my sister who's pacing the archway, and the looks between the two of them, between the two of those, they could have killed each other if looks meant anything. She doesn't say a word, Gwenm. We're just looking around. And then she finally speaks. I live in Southern California. We're accustomed to earthquakes. I mean, we get them all the time. Physical earthquakes. They crack streets, they break bridges, they crack freeways, they uproot trees, they do foundational damage to your house. Things are just all over the place. We get that a lot. But what I'm about to be hit with, and me and my three brothers, because we're the only ones in the room who doesn't know what's about to happen. My sisters already know. We are about to be hit with three emotional earthquakes, very different than a physical earthquake. My mother finally speaks, and she says, your stepfather has been molesting your sister for years. What? What did you say? I am rock backward. I don't know what to do. And then she says, I have known all along. Wait, you have known what all along? You've known what for years? I don't know what to do. Me and my brothers don't know what to do. These are words no brother ever expects to hear and can never prepare for. It's impossible. When adults have challenges that are emotional, they have a difficult enough time trying to deal with it. But this, not my family. We are too close. I know everything that goes on in this house. We've been singing for years now. I know everything. All of our friends, all of our acquaintances, they want to be part of our family because we're so much fun.
Which is interesting. I just want to just take a moment because this is the defining moment where everything kind of it destructs and it starts the rift between brothers and the sisters begin because there's that silence that happens of, well, we didn't know. I think there's a sense of how could you not know, or we thought you knew, or and you know, reading your book, which was really interesting to me, what struck me is that we see through the lens of you as a little boy, and you're watching the physical abuse of your mom from your father very, very starkly, and you're, all the way up to running away from your father. Your mother gets up, finally protects the family. So I just want to say, name that, she protected the family to remove everyone from your father, who is incredibly physically abusive. Then moving into a relationship out of nowhere where this then comes to light, right? So being with a man, which we'd later see as 17 years of being with a
Yeah,
man
she removes us from our biological family in
family
Portland. Yes, yes.
into a family. And so what's interesting to me is like in that moment, and you have this quote around, the magic of our family, this fairy tale family, though, even though we've been through poverty, even though we've been through all of these things, I thought our family was somehow magical, that we had survived so much. And this completely shattered uh, any idea of what our family was. And I thought that was so interesting because you had gone through your own experience of sexual abuse
Yeah.
with your babysitter and had spoken to about it with your mom. You had witnessed heinous, abuse between your father and your mother, to the point of him almost killing her more than once. And so I was just struck by, this idea around the magical family, because we're reading it. The illusion around that magical family, that there was this close,
That's interesting.
this, you know, and
That's really,
it
really
was
interesting.
just a really interesting
Yeah.
read, and you do it so, and I want to say your writing is so magical that we see through the eyes of the little boy. We see through little Nicky,
Little
right?
Nicky, which is my given first name, Nick, right? I mean,
Nick.
everyone calls me Keeper, just so everyone knows. Yeah.
Yes, and you're witnessing this almost like removing yourself. And I think part of me wonders is at what point, did the abuse become where it was just like an objective thing, right? It wasn't, you didn't take on the abuse between your parents, not until your father picked up your brother and threw him down out on the ground. Then it became a personal experience. And so you had gone through all of this. And then the sexual abuse happened with your sisters. And I think one of my questions to you was, and I'm going right in there because just in terms of this messaging for brothers who deal with the guilt.
Ask whatever you want. Nothing is off the table because it's
Mhm.
important that I be vulnerable and just share it. So you go right in.
Yeah, and you say it so eloquently. So you are incredibly vulnerable on the page, and what you do at some point is actually right from the point of view of the molester, of the perpetrator. And I'm wondering whether that was cathartic in writing, or whether how you cleansed
Mhm.
yourself of that to be able to step in, because, and you do it from everyone's point of view, right? We can feel your sisters, we can feel you as a little Nicky, we can feel James, but you also step into the heinous eyes of the perpetrator, which I can imagine is extraordinarily uncomfortable. Yeah, so I think one of my questions to you is like how you cleanse yourself of that experience, or whether that was cathartic or.
You said something about the illusion of it being magical, my family, and no one had ever quite put it that way before. The illusion of our family being magical, knowing all that we were experiencing, what we had experienced, and obviously what we're going to be experiencing next after learning about what happened. Uh, that that has given me pause, just so you know. It's like, wow, I never heard it put that way. But that's really what it was. So to your question, was writing it from the perpetrator standpoint, from my sister's eyes, was it cathartic? Absolutely. No question about it. It took me 10 years to write this book, from 2013 to 2023. And the journey for me from the dark, because this is book one of a three-book series, Helplessness. I'm now writing Hopefulness, and then Happiness will be the third of the series. But it was incredibly cathartic because it allowed me to express what I needed to express when I hadn't been given opportunity. I mentioned, there were three earthquakes that were hit. The last one was when my oldest sister looked at her four brothers and said, "You can't talk about this. It didn't happen to you. It only happened to us girls." And that locked me and my brothers down for decades. But the reality is it did happen to us. It happened to us in silence. We didn't know about it, and its impact with our relationship with our sisters was obviously happening. We just didn't know about it. And then once we learned of it, yes, it's happening to us. It was always happening to us, but to be told you can't talk about it really just stopped all emotional growth, healing that could possibly happen. And that's the journey for brothers, is that we can't talk about it. We're told we can't talk about it. We're not allowed into the conversation. So for me to write it, Gwenm, it was, I get to say everything I want to say for me. And I also get to imagine, because that's what happens for brothers. We imagine what's happened to our sisters, unable to protect them, unable to do anything. We imagine this is what was going on. How did I miss it? That's what was going on. He was doing this. She was doing that. She was allowing that to happen. And it is a situation where
Clarify, your mother was allowing it to happen,
my
right? Your
mother
mother was,
was allowing it to happen. She knew all about it. But there was this constant carrot, you know, for my sisters, don't tell your brothers. Otherwise, if you do, we're going to hurt them. So the carrot for them was protect them. Don't tell any of the four boys ever. And so my youngest sisters, they're all younger than me, are having to hold this and continue to act like everything is okay. And then once we learned about it, it was okay. We cannot get out of this poverty unless we sing. So there was always these the emotional challenges and hoops that we had to overcome. But the cathartic nature of just being able to write, and I think that's part of, for a lot of people, that's where the power really starts to come back to you. You start to grab a sense of who you are and take control of your situation. Because ultimately, if you write about it, chances are you're then going to talk about it.
well, and that brings me to the silence around sexual abuse or rape, family violence, family loyalties. That's what really struck me in this book, is that how systemic family loyalty is at all costs, right? And right up to whether it's the court systems, family, like in schools, in the
Law
court system,
enforcement,
law enforcement, you name
churchmen,
it.
yeah, yeah, religion protecting the community,
Yeah.
all of that, schools protecting the reputation of the school and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, there's that keeping up appearances, and what really gets to me is in the silence. It's one thing when somebody gets raped, I'm going to say, walking down the street, right, which is actually very few of the percentage of sexual violence these days. It's really in the home, and how it gets justified in the family, right? I think everybody around, like when you've realized that everyone around you had some kind of a complicity to what was going on, that there was a level of knowing deep within, and nobody said anything. It's this like, oh, well, he's a nice guy, or we don't want to interfere, or, and the closer that person is, I think, inside family, the more people justify, like I said, oh, he's my brother, or this
Yeah.
is a nice guy. It's like Ted Bundy was a nice guy to every neighbor, right up until he was killing people. And there's just an agreement around the silence, which I'm so glad that you're opening up and bringing it from the brother's perspective, because as you said, many brothers commit suicide. Many
Yeah.
brothers kill
Yeah.
themselves because they can't change it. And there's so much guilt involved. So I just want to let you
Well,
speak on that.
there are tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of articles and books and things from a woman's perspective. And in looking at what I was writing from a brother's perspective, it turns out this is the first one that has tackled the subject to explore the emotional challenges that brothers go through. It's like we are somehow taboo, or our feelings don't matter. And once you are told, and don't get me wrong, historically, men have been absolutely horrible to women. There is no doubt about it. And so I understand the protective nature that a woman will have, a sister will have for a sister, or just women have for women. At the same time, there are innocent men, there are brothers who are looking for answers themselves, they're looking for healing themselves, they're dealing with the trauma themselves. And so the question for me when I started writing Helplessness is, how do I do this in a way that gives language, first of all, to brothers and men who don't know the language that they should be using, even when they're just talking to themselves to help themselves. So it turns out in talking to professors and psychiatrists and even family therapy, they're like, you have given language to something we never considered. We never even thought about the brothers and what they were experiencing. And so once you give language, then you can then give license to brothers and men to start to talk about it, even amongst themselves. Because when me and my brothers found out about it, we didn't even talk to each other.
Yeah.
We were afraid to talk to each other because, as you were talking about the different parts of a community that feel the need to protect, there's nothing probably more powerful than family protecting family, as you pointed out. What
Mhm.
family wants the public, their neighbors, to know that what is dark happening in their house, they want their neighbors to know about it? No one does. But in order to protect the individuals in the house for whatever trauma that they're experiencing, it cannot happen unless there's some voice coming up, from the bottom and saying, this is what's taking place. And it's usually a voice that says, I need help. I'm in pain. I'm in trauma. Can you help me? But to your point, oftentimes the court systems, law enforcement, and other such entities like that, they're more interested in protecting themselves than they are protecting particularly children in these situations.
Yeah, we see it worldwide. And again, you have this, you say it so well when you say nobody should have be in this place of power who has been part of, been a complicit with,
Yeah.
or dished out the abuse, and yet
Right.
we see it all around us.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. At one point, your mother calls out your brother being sexually abused by his teacher, right? Being groomed to
Yeah.
be sexually abused by his. She's completely horrified by that, and yet is part of the puppeting of her own children.
Yeah.
Um,
Part of the
yeah,
puppeting, part of the, as you know, because you read the book, part of the pimping out,
yeah, part
you
of the
know?
pimping out of her daughters, which is horrifying. And
Yeah.
I wish I could say it's unique because I know it. I actually know it within my own family, different version, but that exists.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, your own family, because people often ask me, they look at me and then they look at the book, and men are more apt to say this than women. They will say, is this a book for black guys? And I'm like,
Mm,
what are you
yeah.
talking about? Well, because you wrote it. Then I said, oh, because I'm a black man, you figured that it's exclusive to the black community. It is not. What
Mm,
makes you think this is only for black men? This is happens around the world in every community, in every religion, in every part of the planet. This is just men talking to men. And yet that's what I get quite a bit because I think men are more afraid of this than women, is what I think.
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, I think women can tend to be more, we're more emotional creatures, like more outwardly necessarily expressive, and in that's more acceptable out in society, right? And yet around sexual abuse or any kind of abuse, we tend to clamp down on it. It's as though
Yeah.
it's the hush hush thing that we're not allowed to talk about. And it's
Well,
like,
the
why?
reason why I
So
say
there's the
that
sense of
is,
like, why are we like, why does the abused carry the shame? And
yeah,
when I say the
yeah,
abused, and I'm so like, I include the brothers, certainly that's why, I said, like, you started off your book, and interestingly enough, you started off pretty much in abuse, right? Like, and it's so it gets so normalized over time, right?
yeah,
It's at what point does it get washed over? At what point is it just like, oh, that was kind of like the normal bad time of life, but we got through it? And versus, you being sexually abused by the babysitter. Again, what I found was really interesting is that there's so much compassion brought to your sisters, and recognizing, like, just witnessing from the reader of, I'm wondering, like, if you can extend that compassion to yourself, and I know you're bringing out this message for all the brothers, but definitely, I was still sitting with, yes, and you were also at a very young, you and your brother, and the things that, just being made to kiss your brother, your little brother, for X amount of time by this babysitter, and the things that she had you do, um, is is explicit unto itself. It's not that you were spared by any means your own level of experience. So also recognizing, like, this book was written for brothers, really honors your sisters, I want to
Yeah,
say, and it's the thing
definitely.
that nobody wants to hear or read. It's like it's there, and it's
Well,
so
I,
important.
I, I think what's really great about the book is that three of my sisters contribute to it. They have sections in the book, which is kind of mind blowing after all we went through, that they said yes, and what it took for me to get them to actually do it. And but they have sections in the book that they contributed, and so do two other brothers. So you really get a full family view of what this is like and what our experience is. The reason why I think that's really important, because yes, this book is written from a brother's perspective, and yes, it's written uh, uh, for brothers and for men, but it also gives sisters and women a view, a look into it, and they can also read my sisters and say, you know what, I understand that.
Mhm.
I understand exactly what they're saying. Because if it was just a guy writing a book and I wasn't able to bring them in, it shows the healing that we actually got to this point and continue, because they're participating in the other two books. Um, if it was just from a guy standpoint, it might not have as much power as I hope that it would have. But now women get a chance, as I say, to hear the silent language that brothers and men are keeping and saying to themselves.
Well, I'm just going to ask you, how, what do you think made you the man that you are? Because many, I don't want to say most, I'm going to say, there's many paths that you can take, and you, again, you address it where you say, the victim can go different routes when it comes to being silenced and moving on in life. And you can remain the victim. You can, and I think at some point you say you can also become the abuser. And having gone through everything that you've gone through, and it seems like your family is really cohesive, you have incredible values, integrity, heart, consciousness. And what do you think made you that? What in you is that?
Wow. Um, I think it needs to be understood that there were a lot of mistakes that I made after learning about it. So let's be very, very clear and very honest. It took me 9 years to do something about it, primarily because we were told by our older sister not to talk about it. And just the fear of having to confront it, it took me 9 years. And to me, it's 9 years of betrayal for my sisters. You just mentioned there are many types of abuse, and I hadn't thought of it like this until you said what you just said. 9 years of not doing something, it's abuse. It's emotional abuse for my sisters. It's now, based on what you just said, is now flipped a different switch for me. Yes, they said, don't ever talk to us, never bring it. We don't want to hear anything from you, but still not doing something. And to answer your question, what happened 9 years later was I confronted my stepfather in a way that it was going to be his life or mine. It was a life and death situation. And I was finally able to get him out of the house and removed from the family. Um, and I think that gave me a sense of, it started to make me whole again. It started to make me the man that I wanted to be, who could stand up and do something. Because I think part of what gets lost for brothers when we can't do anything is we lose a bit of our manhood. We lose a bit of that all protective shield that we are expected to carry. And I had lost my shield. I had lost my sword. I had lost all of my ability to confront and will to confront him. But when I did, it changed me, because what that allowed me to do was feel better about myself. Now, after I confronted my stepfather, I did not tell anyone what I did. My sisters thought my mother got him out of the house. They did not learn that it was me who got him out of the house until 7 years ago, in the middle of writing this book, because I didn't feel it was important, but I felt it was my job. And that's, to your point or to your question, that is what made me the man that I am today. But it 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 wasn't easy. It is not easy. But I get to be the brother my sisters always wanted. And there is nothing better than that for a brother. There's just absolutely nothing better to be the man, to be the brother that your sisters hoped and want you to be.
Yeah, and I think that defining moment, and you have another one, which I don't really want to spoil, is at the end of the book, which I think is another taking it to an even greater level, which is also brings to writing this book and completion. But I'm wondering how, how has it been in relationships? So you got married, like
Hmm.
you literally, I think you said like it was just before getting married, it was kind of this moment of I'm
Yeah.
going to kill this man. Either
Yep.
I'm going to kill him or he's going to kill me. And you're just about to get married. And how has that marriage been, like in terms of, you're the example that you came from, and I know you've been married a long time, good woman and good man, right? Like, so again, you still, I recognize, like, I see you saying, oh, I made so many mistakes, but to me it's not the mistakes that were made, it's coming back and recognizing them and taking responsibility for them, and just being able to show up. Like, so what is your definition of your manness, your manhood, your masculinity?
Well, that's the the relationships that I now have with my sisters and with women is different than what was shown to me as a kid with my biological family, rather with my biological father and my stepdad. And you're right. In the book, I kind of, I tell you exactly what happened and how I got to that life and death moment. But as great as all that was, to experience that, being able to speak to my sisters in a way now that allows me to understand them and who they are, because ultimately I was able to talk to them. And that is what was freeing for me. But I go through stuff. I really do. As I was writing the book, there was a moment when I did not realize, after all these years, this is like 45 years later that I started writing this. After all those years, I didn't realize that I was in trauma. I didn't realize I was in a PTSD situation. So my wife of 40 years this year, we're sitting in bed and I'm telling her a story about a section of the book. And she looks at me and she says, "You know you're a victim." And I said, "No, I'm not."
Mhm.
"Yes, you are. How do you not see that?" "What are you talking about? I'm not a victim. I'm just writing the story about what it is." And she says, "Look at you right now. As soon as we start talking about this, you're shaking, you're sweating, you're in pain now just talking about this." I'm not a victim. She says, all four of you boys are victims. Gwenm, it wasn't until that moment that I even recognized that I was a victim. I just figured I was doing what I was supposed to do, and that was it. But she was absolutely correct.
Mhm.
I was a victim, survivor. I had no idea. And that's kind of what, men we've had been taught to expect of us. We are not victims. We are strong. We're fighters. We're hunters. We'll go out and do this. The fact is, we are very vulnerable and we deal with a lot. We just keep a lot of it inside.
Yeah. I am around forgiveness.
Mm.
Ah, I just want to bring up the expectation of forgiveness. I will ask, and I think it's a beautiful place to bring in your poem. I think it's incredibly powerful. So I do want our listeners to hear the poem because I think it says it all. It's incredibly vulnerable and courageous of you to write it and to put it in. And then afterwards, I'm just thinking about forgiveness around, your thoughts around forgiveness. But would you please read out your poem?
Okay. No one's ever asked me to read it in a setting like this. So, okay. Just for you in
Thank you.
this moment. Okay. So, I will do the best I can emotionally.
Yes.
That's the title of it. And then there were seven to be read like Agatha Christie's poem, and then there were none. The oldest Whitney, a boy aged 7, the babysitter eyed. Rub my breast with alcohol and cotton. Watch me masturbate. And then there were 5. Rub me, she said to the second oldest boy, aged 6. It's your daily chore. She spreads in front of him too. And then there were 4. Of the 4 little Whitney girls, stepfather sexually molested the oldest with glee. Imagining the second undressed. Stepfather, when done, left 3. 3 little Whitney girls left. He preyed on the second eldest too. Unclothed, frightened in a dark closet, eyes closed, then zip, leaving the last 2. Your mother knows it's okay, my sweet. Drugged, unconscious, he took the 3rd one. Having spiked her drink in the car, raped, forced abortion, left the last one. One night with the youngest Whitney girl, the wealthy Arab man pleaded it would be great fun. Have her for a powder blue van, says Mom, making 6 of 8, all done. The 3rd Whitney boy, invited home by his male teacher. Mom finally steps up and steps in. Why? This one was a sin. The 4th Whitney boy escaped the torment of molestation, however, still traumatized today, seeking retribution and salvation. My siblings are not unique, but we are 8 of millions. 50 years as victim found courage to share our story, no longer frightened, beaten, or children. What happened to brothers when never asked? What happens to brothers when never asked? Do you need to talk? How are you doing? Confused, we try to make sense of it all without a voice, our guilt ever brewing. I am a brother who hopes all brothers, with the weight of guilt a continual test, will pass from helplessness to hopefulness to happiness, unlike millions who never rest.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah. You are a hero. I hope you know this. I think most heroes don't know their heroes, and just, and don't want to be necessarily, but over and over again, you are. I'm just going to name that and hope that you receive it.
I do, and I thank you. I look at the situation like this now, Gwenm. No one should ever go through what my family went through. But now, and I'm not trying to be insensitive or anything, I'm glad we did. And I say that because it allowed me to write a book from a brother's perspective that had never been written before. It allowed me to give voice and language for brothers that we've never had before. Many therapists have told me that I never even considered what brothers have gone through until you wrote this book, which to me is mind-boggling. And so even as I speak to my brother, I've spoken to my brothers and sisters about it, they said, you know what? We are here apparently for this reason. It wasn't to sing. It was for us to go through this, to help the world and other families who are dealing with the same trauma understand through our story what it was like and yet where it can be, because I'm very happy right now, and so are they. And I'm in touch with four of my brothers and sisters. Two of brothers I still don't have a relationship with, and one sister. But I will take that all day and hope that the other three are able to come to where the rest of us are. So no, I don't look at me as a hero at all. I'm just trying to help some brothers, trying to help some sisters understand how we can make sense of it all.
Yeah, well, we definitely need more. We do. We need more men speaking out. Um, I normally ask my 10 questions. I know we don't have much time. Um, I think I would really like to know a couple of the questions, if you don't mind,
Sure.
before we end today. And first, I just want to thank you for being here, for being open. This book is candid, raw, truthful, and I say it's an exquisite read because it is impeccably written. It really it's has a high level of integrity and really honors everyone that's involved in the abuse, right up to the abusers that it stays true to. I had asked you, I wanted to know around forgiveness, just a thought around forgiveness and yeah, where you stand. Is your mom still alive?
Yes.
She is. And where do you sit in forgiveness with your mom?
Forgiveness, wow. Forgiveness is not easy because for me, forgiveness means, for me, if I'm to forgive someone who's never shown any sort of remorse, continues to keep the position that she originally had, I don't see forgiveness there. I see, okay, let me accept who you are and I will let you be where you're at. But forgiveness to me requires some sort of action on the part of the perpetrator that they deserve forgiveness, and this hasn't happened. I think all too often we're told, certainly through the church and everything, you must forgive, you must forgive. And I'm like, no, no, something has to happen first.
Yeah, I
Someone
agree
has to
with you.
own, yeah, they need to earn forgiveness first. Work needs to be done. Yeah, but you're helping yourself. No, no, I'm fine. I'm working on me. I did not do anything wrong, so I don't need to forgive me. So that's my position on forgiveness. I think forgiveness is earned. It just cannot be doled out like candy and being told by the victim, the survivors, that we need to do it for ourselves. No, I don't.
No, no, and I agree. I think, and it's not even about, I think at some point there's this expectation that forgiveness is supposed to happen, right? There's like, oh, well, that there's like all these years have gone by and you're supposed to forgive.
Thank
And the
you.
only thing that I've learned in my life, because it took me a long time, you hear about people, they forgive like the most heinous things and they forgive the other person. And what I've come to is the most important thing that you need to forgive is yourself. You forgive yourself for all the beatings you gave yourself, for any
Yes.
loyalties
Yes. Yes.
that are attachments to the other person. And so when the forgiveness really lands
Yes.
in you, that's the freedom, that's the disconnection and the hook
Right.
that has tied that bonding to that abuser for so
But
many
that's
years.
not what they tell you.
And
They don't tell you.
that's not what they tell you. They tell you you're
Exactly.
supposed to forgive the other. But I mean, and my alignment is really in my heart, right? Where it's like, and I had an experience in my life. And I remember one time my mother saying to me, well, he's my brother. I need to forgive him. And I was like, it's not yours to forgive, right? Like I took it. And I think that's a response that your sister could really, like, that was me taking back my agency of this is mine.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Well
and
said.
forgiveness,
Well said.
it's in there. So, I know we have to go. We have 1 minute. So I'm going to ask you one question from my 10 questions because it went fast. And that is, finish this sentence. When I leave this life, I want my skin to remember.
That I did good. I am
Mm,
so intent on doing good and leaving something good and meaningful behind.
mm.
You have no idea how badly I want to leave something important behind. That's what I want my skin to know, to remember that I did it.
And you
Yes.
have. I just want you to know that you have. Um, very quickly, because we have about 15 seconds before we go cut off. So can you please just let people know how to reach you, where to go on your website, and
Well, my website is keepercatran-Whitney.com. You can go there. If you want to email me, keepercw@gmail. You could always get me there, keepercw@gmail. Thank you.
great. Thank you. If you want to reach me, I'm at gwenmcarsley.com and at info@luvology.com. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for being so open and so honest. Yeah, thank you. And it's a must read. Helplessness. Go get yourself a copy.
Thank you for listening to Skin and Soul with me, Gwenm. Join me Fridays at 10 a.m. PST on Transformation Talk Radio. Catch the podcast anytime on your favorite platforms. You can follow me on Instagram @Luvology. Ready to take the next step? Book a compatibility call with me at gwenmcarsley.com.